Hi everyone. So in this second installment of What If, we'll be looking at another popular fantasy. I'm sorry. I'm just sorry. My dog's it's got a squirrel trapped up a tree. I can actually see the squirrel right there, and my dog was looking at it. You chasing the squirrels, Domino? Is that what you're doing? But no, we're looking at another franchise in our What If question. The What If question for today is: what if Ash Pokemon had been on time? Well, he had not been late. Let's say that he'd not slept in and actually gotten there. Now, I actually went looking up just the thumbnail for this to alter slightly. I did come across a forum asking that question. I'm like, okay, what's this? And someone had actually said that he was originally supposed to get the Clefairy, but that's the manga. That's not we are not referring to the manga in this. We are referring to we're talking about the anime. That is what we're talking about. We're talking about the anime, the first season, so forth, because that's really only where the events are going to be playing out. Most of the time for this is the season 1, the Kanto League. After that, it's going to change up not as much, because then he's going to catch Pokemon and things along those lines. Things would change. So the question then becomes, what would be different? Well, the first big thing right off the bat is Pikachu would not be his Pokemon. He would not have gotten Pikachu because Pikachu was basically was the runner-up, the last but not least, the final option for anyone who had kind of run out and be willing to take a disgruntled Pikachu. So he would not have gotten Pikachu. Now the question becomes, who would he have chosen? And I had to rewatch the first episode, to be certain on that. And he would have had Bulbasaur. The reason is because despite the fact he would not have been late, I don't think he would have beaten Gary. Gary, being Oak's grandson, all that, and everything like that, he would have at least a little special privileges. He would have at least had his shot at his first, and would have gotten Squirtle, because that's what he chose. And while Ash's first choice was Squirtle, he wouldn't have been able to get that. So his second choice would have been Bulbasaur. So he would have started out with Bulbasaur. And unlike with Pikachu, Bulbasaur would actually have listened to him. They would have, so it's like, hi, Bulbasaur. Bulbasaur. Wait a minute. Bulbasaur. And they would have, it was like, Bulbasaur, yeah, Bulbasaur, we're going to do awesome stuff, yeah. And I do believe, I do subscribe to the theory, and this is why I'm going with it, that the Bulbasaur he ends up catching, as well as the Charmander, may very well have been the Charmander and Bulbasaur from Oak's lab. At the very least, I think the Bulbasaur was. The Charmander one you can argue for because of whatever, but I think the Bulbasaur actually was. So if we're going to go with that assumption that it is in fact the Bulbasaur from the Secret Garden episode, then it's probably going to choose not to evolve down the line. So we're going to have to deal with that fact. Now, that being said, how is this going to play out? Well, here's the thing. I think we're still going to get the Pharaoh, the whole scenario with Sparrows and the Sparrows chasing him and stuff like that, I think it's still going to play out. However, I think he's probably going to, take out like a Rattata or something like that. He's going to maybe give Bulbasaur up a level or two, and then he's going to maybe try to take out the Pidgey, and then accidentally hit and hurt Sparrow. And unfortunately, Bulbasaur, unlike Pikachu, has a very big disadvantage against flying types. So it's like, it's like, oh boy, we gotta get out of here, come on. And then, sees Bulbasaur, he grabs Bulbasaur, makes sure he doesn't get hurt and stuff like that. They go they get caught in the water river, stuff like that. And by the way, Misty's a bitch, by the way. I mean, I like Misty fine, but Misty's a bitch. Because he's hurt, and Bulbasaur I think would still be relatively okay, because he knows Bulbasaur is probably too slow, and he maybe even would turn to his Pokeball to save him. Honestly, yeah, why doesn't he just do that? He would probably return Bulbasaur to his Pokeball and just make a run for it. He gets and then he gets out and is like, Misty just like, it's some kid. What kind of, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to stop right there. What kind of mentality is that? You see a kid clearly was drowning or was stuck in the river, had to get away. You catch him on your line, and you're some stuck-up bitch where you're like, it's just some kid. It's like, what a Pokemon. And it's like, and then the actual dub, she smacks him for being this like, you don't know what happened. You just saw this kid and the Pokemon probably drowning, and you're immediately berating the trainer because you don't know what the fuck happened? What is your deal? anyway. So they make me, and that whole scenario plays off the way it is. Difference being, however, though, I think Misty's bike would be messed up. Pikachu wouldn't incinerate it because Pikachu's not there. So I think it probably gets more messed up from the Pharaohs, actually. Domino, you're going to wait. Domino, come here. You are going to wait. Here you go. You're going to wait. Because I'm doing the video. You always do this. You want to go outside with me, and then you want to interrupt my videos. Why? Why must you interrupt my videos? I'll pet you. Anyway. So that'll happen. Another big key feature that I think is going to happen is, while I think they'll deal with Team Rocket and all that, Team Rocket I don't think is going to have much of a reason to go after them. They don't have Pikachu, and Pikachu doesn't get the sudden freaking EV training and all that boost he got from defeating all those Sparrow early on, because let's be clear, defeating all those Sparrow probably jumped Pikachu way up in terms of low. I mean, if Pikachu was level 5, like all general starters are, and it defeated what looked to be a couple dozen Sparrows, he probably jumped all the way up to at least level 15 at that point. So he was well above his standard where he should have been. And then, of course, Pikachu wasn't doing crap for most of those beginning episodes up until around Pewter City and... only around Pewter City. And then he stopped doing crap again for a couple episodes, unless Team Rocket was involved. Yeah, Pikachu really didn't start doing stuff until around the Lance Surge fight. Anyway, here you go, Papa. So anyway, yeah, Ash will still catch Caterpie. Ash will not catch Pidgeotto, I believe, because he caught Pidgeotto with Pikachu being electric versus the flying. So he's still going to have Caterpie and Bulbasaur. I don't believe, if Team Rocket does show up, I do believe it would go similar. In fact, I think actually Bulbasaur would have an easier time. Granted, his grass attacks wouldn't hurt them that much, but he would know, I think I wrote it down too, he would know Leech Seed, Vine Whip around this point, I think. So between them, he would probably Leech Seed one of them, but keep one at Bay with Vine Whip. Even if he does go down, Caterpie would then go in and evolve in the Metapod. I do believe the whole evolving in the Metapod stuff would still happen. He'd sub Butterfree by the end. So now they come out of the Viridian Forest with he comes out with Butterfree and he comes out with Bulbasaur. Now, the fight between him and Brock goes down differently. It's going to be a 2-on-2 battle. He'd probably start out with granted, he's still Ash. He's still not a bright kid, but he would probably start out with Butterfree to save his trump card Bulbasaur first, last. Fight would go down, and I think did he start out with the Onix in the first fight? Because I know Geodude came out in the second fight. I think he started out with Onix first. I'm trying to think. No, I don't think it is. So Butterfree and Onix go at it, and I do believe Bug is weak to Rock and Flying, so Butterfree's not going to last very long. However, I do believe he'd probably get like a Stun Spore or something off. So I think Onix or maybe even a Sleep Powder. Now, that said, I don't believe his Butterfree knew Confusion at that point. I don't think. It might have. Because it learned the Powder moves when it evolved. I can't recall if it knew Confusion at that point. But I think Onix maybe might go to sleep, and maybe Butterfree would do a couple attacks. I think Butterfree would eventually lose, but maybe he would be either poisoned or stunned at that point. And then Bulbasaur comes out, uses a Leech Seed, then Vine, and I think Bulbasaur would eventually take down the Onix. And even if he starts with Geodude, even better for Ash. So I think actually he more or less beats him on his first go. But the kids come in, and and it's still he wouldn't. I should say this: he would have beaten him on his first go. And he still technically beats him. It's just that the kids get involved and whatnot, and then he goes with them and so forth. His dad comes in and whatnot. So after that, most of the events play out the same. Team Rocket will show up sporadically, but not as much because they don't have as much reason to follow the kids at this point. And the lighting's shifted somewhat. Let me see if I can, because daylight savings. Oh, there we go. There we go. That's a much better lighting. So I mean, they'll deal with them at the whole Mount Moon scenario, and between Brock, Ash, and Misty, and the Clefairy, because the Clefairies are one who basically did that metronome. They'll take him out. Then here we're getting to the weird stuff. They come across the secret garden. I don't know. Maybe there's another. We'll argue this, for the sake of this, that maybe there's another Bulbasaur there, and maybe their Bulbasaurs have a little rivalry, and Ashes eventually comes out on top. Blah blah blah. So that will happen. The whole incident with Charmander stays the same. The incident with Squirtle, I actually would not think is the same. Not necessarily. I think Bulbasaur and stuff like that. Bulbasaur can take them on and stuff like that. But I don't think Bulbasaur could. Again, the Leech Seed is. Don't never underestimate a Leech Seed. By the way, Leech Seed is a very potent attack. Because you're just. I don't have to do anything. I can just avoid your attacks and keep gaining life. So I think that's the thing. Bulbasaur can Leech Seed a couple of them. And in the end, I think he's still going to end up with Squirtle. So that's all going to stay the same. Now, and I had to read this the way it came up. I believe he would catch. What would happen is immediately after that it was the Bill at the Lighthouse episode, and I think he would catch Krabby at that point because he's, they're still mocking. He's like, most trainers usually have this much Pokemon. You only got, in this case, you'd only have 5 Pokemon. We wouldn't even have a full team. So he goes out there, he finds Krabby, catches Krabby, and he adds Krabby to his team. So he would actually have 2 water Pokemon on his team at this point. After that. I'm trying to remember. They would deal with the Pikachu. I don't think he would catch a Pikachu or anything like that. He would catch Primeape. That would stay the same. He would also lose Butterfree and lose Primeape at the same time. So now he's down. Butterfree, Charmander, Bulbasaur, Squirtle. So he'd have 4. Krabby makes 5. He would lose Butterfree at one point, because I think that happened between Primeape and... that happened between then. And he would gain Primeape. He still have only 5. He would lose Primeape after that. But before those, we got to get it. The Lance Surge fight, I think... Now, again, Lance Surge Raichu was so powerful it could knock out ground types. You do the math on that. Again, Pikachu also shoots, as I think Linkara once put it, shoots the thunderbolts of Zeus as it knocked out a Golem, which is part ground type, but you could not knock out a Quagsire, part ground type. You decide. But Bulbasaur is grass, so it's got resistance. I do believe Pikachu would. I do believe Ash would eventually win against Surge. It all depends. What is it? Is it going to be a one-on-one? Is it you're allowed to use as many Pokemon as you want kind of situation? I don't know because I can't remember exactly how they defined the fight. I think it was just his Raichu he was allowed to use. Or allowed to use. It was the only one I know it was the only one he used, but I don't know if it was an actual one-on-one fight. I think eventually what would happen is he would either use Charmander or he would use Bulbasaur to counter him, is what would happen. So that would happen. Then most of the other fights would take place, or battles would take place. I believe Celadon City came next. Bulbasaur would unfortunately lose to Tangela. Charmander would beat those other two. Or would beat Weeping Bell. And then Gloom comes in. But the way that fight took place and stuff like that, it wouldn't matter. He didn't officially catch... He did not officially catch Haunter, so that whole scenario would play out about the same. He would catch Muck and keep Muck on his team. That's a big change I think would happen. He would keep Muck on his team, which would put him at 5. And then the Safari Zone episode would come up, and he would keep a Tauros on his team. That would also change up. Now, the remainder of things like Charizard, not obeying him, that would stay the same. Krabby would eventually evolve into Kingler before the Pokémon League. Majority of the other fights would stay about the same, simply because it's most of the same Pokemon involved in those fights that he already had on his team. Excuse me, I just got an itch. There we go. So up until then, everything else stays about the same. The Pokemon League comes around. The round 1 stays the same. In fact, it goes even better for him. Round 2, round 3, round 4, they're all about the same because and I had to look this up. He uses about the same Pokemon he already had on his team or was already using in the league at that point. So most of that's going to be about the same. Domino. So last but not least, what we'll end off on is the final fight. Was it Richie was his name? The Ash knockoff. That fight, I think, still goes about the same. If there's two ways to look at that, he either does not make it in time for the finals for the Pokemon League because Pidgeotto was the reason he got there in time. So he either just gets disqualified because he couldn't make it in time, or let's hypothetically say he does make it in time through some means. Now, if he does make it in time, one of two things happens on that. I do believe, he would use Squirtle, he would still have Bulbasaur, and he has Charmeleon. So, Squirtle, again, I believe it was against Charmander, a Butterfree, and his Pikachu. So he went with Butterfree first. So I imagine he would probably he wouldn't go with Charizard, because he knows Charizard doesn't like to listen to him. I would assume it's Squirtle again, Squirtle loses. Now, after that, then he probably goes with Muck. Muck takes him out with like some sludge bombs and stuff like that. Charmander comes in. I think Charmander and Muck probably go head-to-head a bit. Because that would definitely be a interesting fight. Because Poison's not necessarily strong against fire, but anytime I use a fire type against the Poison type in a game, it's usually a decent effect. Because it's like, lighting flammable chemicals on fire kind of scenario. But I would think Charmander wins, but Charmander would be a little tired out. So he would then Squirtle would be down. He would be out with Muck. So now he's got to basically think, okay, who's my last guy going to be? Now if he would go either with Charizard again, and he would follow up the same. He would beat up Charmander and then forfeit against Pikachu. He would not use Bulbasaur. He might decide to go with Tauros. And if he goes with Tauros, then he might end up winning. Because I think Tauros would just overall knock out Charmeleon. You go, Bubba. We're almost done. He would overall knock out Charmander. But would he take out Pikachu before Pikachu takes out Tauros? That's debatable because Tauros is shown to know Fissure. And let's be clear, the Tauros he ends up uses in the Orange Islands, he never used in battle as far as we know. So that Tauros already knew Fissure and knew Headbutt, and used Stomp, Takedown, knew some decent attacks. So if we were to assume that this is the same Tauros he uses, and he's actually had time to train this Tauros and maybe even teach it like an Earthquake or something like that, then, assuming it knows Fissure and maybe Earthquake at that point, I would actually lean towards Ash winning that fight, but I think he'd lose the final fight. So he'd make it to the top 8 at least. But there's so many what-ifs. I think the overall true effect that would happen is because he doesn't have Pidgeotto on his team, he actually doesn't make it to the fight and he loses by disqualification. I think that's what the likely thing is. Still makes it a top 16, though. So that record doesn't change. And get that off your face. There you go. That record of his doesn't change, but the events change. But again, if he does make it in time, it all depends on what he decides to bring out. Because his team's different, I think he might win because he could have a Tauros that's trained up and can learn like a ground-type move that could work against Pikachu and just knock him the hell out. So, gotta get that off you. Whew. Yeah. I had a tick on you, but I saved you. Luckily, it hadn't attached yet, so that's a good thing also. But yeah, that's how... And then there's no episode with... maybe the whole Pharaoh thing happens again, where that Pharaoh went after them and Pidgeotto evolved into Pidgeot, except he's probably got, a couple other guys. He's got Muck and, Squirtle and Bulbasaur and Tauros on his side at that point, so things might change up at that point. But overall, that's how I think if Ash had not chosen Pikachu, if Ash had been on time, things might have played out differently. So that's what I think may have happened. But let me know what you think might have happened. Put it in the comments below. Let me know. Like, comment, share, subscribe. I hope you enjoyed. Tomorrow, you'll notice, by the way, there's no Trolls review up right now. I didn't get around to seeing it yesterday. I will actually see it tomorrow because tomorrow is matinee price, so and I've got the day off, so it just makes more sense because I missed it yesterday, for me to see it on a day where it'll be discounted. I don't have to spend as much money. I'll have nothing really to do. So overall, I think it's just the smarter route to go. Again, not including the fact that I just didn't get around to seeing it, unfortunately. But I'll see you tomorrow. So thanks for watching. I hope you. And tomorrow's a presidential election. I am not paying attention. I will pay attention. I'll come in and out. Basically say, okay, I got out of this at 9, or have you decided yet? Okay, I'll just sit at like my local pub or thing, get a snack and a drink and be like, All right, time to watch the world burn. So, yeah, but yeah, I'm not doing anything for that. That's not what this channel is about. This channel is about movies and having fun. So, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you folks next